Stage 4 of the Tour de France is sure to be a picturesque one. Hello and welcome, this is Matthew Keenan with you on a day which is poised to be one for the sprinters, and we ask the question, will it be Cavendish again, perhaps Sagan, Greipel lining up for his first this year, and there's a whole host of others hoping to join them as stage winners in 2016. Sumer is where the stage starts, and eventually we make it down to Limoges, and it's the longest stage of this year's race, 237.5 kilometres. There are not a lot of obstacles early, it's relatively flat, but it gets a fraction more bumpy towards the finish. The Category 4 climb isn't monstrous, but the rise in altitude will just take a bit of the sting out of the tail of the sprinters. But it's sure to be one for the fast men. With this being such a long stage, the flag went down for the neutral depart at 10 past 11 local time. They then had 10 kilometres in the neutral zone to add to the already 237 kilometres. So a long day in the saddle. Almost 250 kilometres worth of riding. They get those first 10 for free. Although they do take a little bit of energy out of the legs. Everybody, the riders included, hoping for a slightly more aggressive stage than what we saw yesterday, but it's perfectly understandable that they can't go full noise all day, every day. This is the situation of the race with a breakaway group of 4. This is Andreas Schillinger from Bora Argon 18. We've seen them so often represented in the breakaways, particularly the first 2 stages where they had 2 riders each day in the break, and a brief stint for Paul Voss in the King of the Mountains jersey. Froome just comfortably drifting back towards the team car. He looks so calm. Sunscreen lotion for Chris Froome. It's the first time we've seen that in this year's Tour de France. That's always a good sign. Clearly not the sunscreen lotion that he wants. It's all good. He's going to go back to the peloton. They'll call through to the second of the team cars, find exactly what Froome needs, and then I'm sure they'll provide it to him. Marcus Burkhardt is the rider in the red colours from BMC that drifts back to the peloton along with Froome. They have been flawless so far, Team Sky. So too, Movistar, we can say the same of them. Nairo Quintana, Chris Froome, they haven't been put in a position where they've even looked like they've been threatening to lose a bit of time. Of the contenders for a top 5 finish, we've seen a mechanical problem, a rear wheel puncher for Richie Porte. That's cost him some time. Richie Porte finds himself at 1 minute and 59 seconds down. So he's 1 minute and 45 seconds behind Chris Froome. And Alberto Contador, it's been well documented. He's had those 2 crashes, and Contador's conceded some time. He's at 1 minute and 2 seconds behind the yellow jersey. This is Ian Stannard getting changed. It is warming up. It looks as if the former British national champion has taken his undershirt off. Luke Rowe is the rider that he is alongside. And just behind them, in the white colours of Dimension Data, is Bernard Eisel, who had a brilliant day yesterday, the Austrian. Dimension Data coming to the front today to assist with the chasing, aiming for stage winner number 29 in the career of Mark Cavendish. This is the breakaway group. Schillinger, we've already mentioned. He's the rider at the back with the red helmet on. And this is a part of the course where they can ditch some of their wrappings. You just saw that red sign as they entered into this small town of Pazay-le-Cy. It indicates that this is an area, and that's the close of it. You can see those 2 red bollards on either side of the road. That's the close of where they can dump their rubbish. Got to get it out if you're going to get it out. Too late. Now you have to either carry it to the finish line or put it in the team car. And there is one more of these spots where they can do that. About to head into the feed zone. At the back of the group, this is Olivia Neeson for IM Cycling. They were the first team to break away this year, courtesy of Lee Howard. Miguel Irizar is in the break for Trek Segafredo. And for the French, they've managed to get one of the riders from AG2R Le Mondial into the team. And it's a first-timer at the Tour de France. Alexis Gouget has made it into today's breakaway. And he is an exciting rider for the future. As we take a look.
All smiles for now, but I just know that behind that smile of Andre Greipel, he'll be seething about yesterday. Especially being beaten by such a small margin, but on top of that, I think he'll feel just ever so slightly embarrassed about claiming it with the fist pump after the line and then seeing the photo and getting the news that he hadn't actually won. He'll want to make amends as quickly as possible and just wipe that all away. 4 stage wins in this race last year for Greipel. His best Tour de France today. He's had 10 stage wins in total in the Tour de France. That hurt him yesterday.
It'll be a tense finish this afternoon, and it's a perfectly straight approach for the last 1,500 metres. The last 500 metres are uphill, not super steep, not climbers uphill, but tough for the sprinters uphill. I think it's going to favour Peter Sagan. Yesterday was one of those days that just seemed to go on forever, and you heard from Thomas Voeckler earlier on saying that he was bored, he thought the spectators were bored, and that was the part of the reason that he went on the attack. Well, Edward Toynes, the young Belgian from the Trek Segafredo team, who finished 5th yesterday, was riding his first Tour de France. He said it was the slowest race he's ever ridden. Rafał Majka, Polish national champion, with those bright reddish shoes on, it's going to make it easy to spot him throughout the rest of the season. And there's Lars back in the red colours. Natnav Bihan is the rider in the white colours of Dimension Data. 3 kilometres to the intermediate sprint. I'm not expecting to see a battle between these 4 out in front. It is Nason in the white and colours with the red and the blue nicks. Schellinger going to the front now in the black colours of Bora Argon 18. In the black and white colours of Trek Segafredo, that is Irizar. And Gouget, the young Frenchman, who was very impressive at the start of the season. He was impressive last year as well, and he's going to win a lot of races in his career.
Well, I've just been looking up his palmarès, Matt, and Gouget last season won 5 races.
His most impressive ride that I saw this year was in the opening weekend of racing in Belgium at the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. He was in the day-long breakaway, and then they were caught by a really strong group that included Peter Sagan, and he stayed with them and he kept working, and he finished in 5th position, whilst everybody else that was originally in that breakaway got dropped. And he didn't just sit on and say, hey, I've been in the move all day, I'm a passenger. He just kept charging on through.
Yeah, he kept working all the way through to the finish. It was an incredibly strong ride. So, said before, maybe Nason was the one to watch, but after looking more at the others, palmarès, what they've done this season, my money would be swinging across to Alexis Gouget.
We'll be joining Mike. 1 kilometre to the intermediate sprint as they enter the department of the Haut-Viens. Well, that's the department that they've been in for the majority of today's stage. The sprint for the minor placings back in the main peloton so far has been a contest as to who can get there first and spend the least amount of energy. Is there a conversation that's about to happen to share the points through here? Well, there's no sharing because there's only one sprint.
They'll all get points, but there's only one prize as such, about €1,000, I believe it is, for the winner of the intermediate sprint, unless it goes down the first 3. Better check out the prize book, Matt, and go through the finer details. But it's more about the prestige of who wins the intermediate sprint. It's a little bit of a talking point. Always interesting for the sponsors. They'd like to see their rider cross the line first, something to brag about a little bit. Like I said before, these riders may be thinking the chances are very slim we'll get to the finish, so we'd like to get something here, something to take back to the team, as it were, and say, well, I got out there and I won the intermediate sprint. Less than 500 metres to go. Still working well together, just going around, swapping turns at the front. 300 metres until the sprint here. Nobody looking like they're sort of sizing the others up just yet, so will they just keep working smoothly, Was someone going to make that jump?
But Schellinger goes to the front. He's got that little look underneath the arms, and now he wants to sprint. He's a former track cyclist, so he wants to make sure he gets the points. The other three, they're not interested. So it's Andreas Schellinger who collects, and Olivia Nason waves goodbye. We'll see you soon. Schellinger picking up the 20 points in the race for the green jersey. It was then Nason followed by Irizar and Gujar at the back of the group. The youngest rider in the break, the least interested in the small prizes because Alexei likes big prizes. 1 kilometre before they get to the top of this climb. I'm going to let that one slide about the cow and the butcher.
It was €40 a kilo.
You could have held on to it. The Côte de la Maisonneuve is the climb that they now find themselves on. It's not a particularly big climb, as you can see. There's only 1 point up for grabs in the King of the Mountains classification. Jesper Sturven wears the polka dot jersey as the leader of that competition. He's on 4 points, so he can't lose the lead today, but he will be challenged for that lead tomorrow. So I think we might see Jesper Sturven getting the breakaway tomorrow. He's a smart bike rider, Jesper. Just 24 years old in his first Tour de France, and he's having a big impact. A beautiful rolling countryside. It's a fantastic place to ride a bike. The high mountains of the Pyrenees and the Alps is where most people like to go because there's a great sense of accomplishment just getting to the top of those famous cols. But here it's slightly more pleasant. It's a little easier, the riding side of things. Lets you enjoy the local food and wine of the region a little bit more. Welsh flags on the side of the road. They've had a lot to cheer about over the past couple of weeks, particularly with Euro 16 underway and the Welsh team playing so well. 2 Welsh riders in the race, both riding with Team Sky, Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas. They've both been involved in falls on stage 1, but neither of them seriously injured. So things looking good in their support role for Chris Froome. Olivia Nason at the front. Then Irizar, followed by Schellinger, and then it's Gujar at the back.
Well, the time gap just staying stable around that 2-minute mark. It's what the sprinters teams in the peloton will want, just to hold it even until they decide it's time to ramp things up. They'll be looking to bring this group back in only in the last 20 kilometres, probably even later than that, because there's an uncategorised climb at about 11 kilometres to go. It's 1.5 kilometres long and it's about 9%. So it's not a huge hill by any stretch, but the sprinters teams won't want to be providing a springboard to any riders to go on the attack. And it's always a little bit off-putting for riders in the peloton to go on the attack when there's still a breakaway in front.
Nason at the front. Nobody appearing to challenging him. Schellinger collected the intermediate sprint. Irizar looks as if he's keen to collect the point because his teammate leads the classification, and that's exactly what he does. Markel Irizar across the top in first position. 1 point in the race for the King of the Mountains jersey, and once again at the back of the group, Robbie, Alexei Gujar, the youngest guy, not playing any games.
No, just doing his thing in the break, just doing his turns, uninterested in the prizes because he's not out after the King of the Mountains jersey. He's not trying to collect sprint points. So just sitting tight, doing his work, hoping that the bunch goes and makes a mistake.
He's not wasting any energy. Adam Yates, winner of the Tour of Turkey back in 2013, when he was a member of the Direct Energy team, it was Europcar sponsored then, which part of the Vendée U system, which we just saw that little story on. So through that system, support there and onto their professional team, and now he's riding with Dimension Data and he's in the Tour de France. He was also 18th in the recent Tour de Suisse, so he comes in with some very good form. Well, this is the Buddhist Retreat and Study Centre. And the land that it occupies, they've got some 30 hectares, so it's pretty big. They've got 3 large temples and 3 statues of Buddha. Accommodation for monks. There's plenty of ponds with lotus flowers growing in the summer. It was established back in 1986, and the centre was built as a result of worldwide donations. So some peace and tranquility. We won't see that in the last couple of kilometres. There is no peace and tranquility when you're sprinting for a stage win at the Tour de France, Robbie.
Sorry, Matt, I was just drifted away a little bit then. I was just so calm looking at those pictures.
Of course you were. Nice to get a chance to be able to take a look at it and try and move into a relaxed mode. The peloton is still fairly relaxed. There's another one of the statues of Buddha in the centre of this temple, this retreat and study centre. And there's quite a few Buddhist temples throughout France, and a few of them in Paris as well. A message of peace.
And can't we use that at the moment?
Indeed. Well, there might not be too much peace across at Team Katusha, because Alexander Kristoff, who was 11th yesterday, he said, I should have done better. And his team sports director, Torsten Schmidt, agrees with him. And he said, today we'll try again. The pressure is on Kristoff's shoulders. The expectations are high.
Nothing, he's the birthday boy too.
Nothing like putting some pressure on your team leader.
Well, if you're the team leader and you're getting paid accordingly, the team can expect performances. And if you say yourself, I should have done better, and it's an honest appraisal, then the team really should be able to go along with that and say, yes, you should have done better. Keep the pressure on the rider, because he'll have plenty more on himself, and he'll be really disappointed with his efforts so far, Alexander Kristoff. But this is a stage finish that suits him. Kristoff, a real mix of sprinter and classics rider. We've seen him win the Tour of Flanders. We've seen him win Tour de France stages a couple of years ago. And this is a finish, 500 metres at 5%, really dragging, really heavy. It's one that does suit the classics type fast men. So I have expected Kristoff to be up there today, just not quite sure he's got the form to take it to the likes of Greipel, Cav, Kittel, Sagan, and even at this moment, Brian Coquard, who had a good third place yesterday. And he'll find a finish to his liking today as well.
So they're getting on with the job in hand. They're just inside 40 kilometres to go. Can't see them staying away. Christophe Agneluto did it back in the year 2000 racing into Limoges, but the weather was not very nice. Heavy rain, and the peloton were huddled together for warmth.
Yeah, I think as Jens Voigt mentioned to us, it really was a dramatic day when Agneluto won. That was a long time ago, and I think everybody kind of went to sleep because of the weather conditions. Here it's slightly different. These guys have never been given their advantage, and what has happened though, they've ridden steadily over the first 4 or 5 hours of this race, and now all of a sudden they've also picked up their tempo, because when we get the access to some of the dimension data that's being thrown at us, these guys are riding at 55 to 60 kilometres an hour. Talk about throwing down the gauntlet to the teams of the sprinters.
Oh, look at the face on Irizar here at the back in that white Trek Segafredo jersey. Experience in the breakaway, because Irizar's got 5 tours under those wheels, and Andreas Schillinger, the German's, got 3. The other 2, Guger and Nazen, are in their first Tour de France, and they must be wondering what's hit them, I think, but they've not been afraid to go out and have a little dig today. Now looking at the lake here of the Vergne. This is really lovely countryside now. Of course, it's the home of the famous Raymond Poulidor, who was on the race. He was 80 in April, and he never wore the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and for that very reason alone, because he was on the podium more times than anyone else.
Bit of a problem here.
It looks as though we've got a little cracker from Guga here, dropping back. And so Raymond Poulidor throughout his career.
Well, forget about throughout his career, and nowadays, Phil, when his car drives through the villages, you can still hear people shouting, Allez Poupou, Allez Poupou,
Yes.
and Poupou was the nickname for the famous Raymond Poulidor.
My image goes back into the 70s when he was still riding the Tour and was a star. He used to walk into the area by himself without his bike. He'd sit down on any park bench and he'd peel a grapefruit. And the elder people that knew him so well, I saw an old lady dressed in black reaching across the rails, just wanting to touch Raymond Poulidor. She's going, poo-poo, poo-poo, touche, touche. It's such a popular man.
Well, I'll tell you another funny story about Raymond Poulidor, because in fact he's an Auvergnat, and they say that the Auvergnat region of France is where people are very, very careful with their money. And Raymond Poulidor, when he used to pay for his fuel at the gas station, he would only write it for 50 francs, and people never cashed the cheque because they wanted his signature. Anyway, now he's still as famous today as he was all those years ago when he was the great rival to Jacques Anquetil, and what a rivalry that was. Now we're down to 3 leaders now. Gugère, well, he was the youngest rider in the breakaway group at just 24 years of age, and we're now down to 3. On the front, it's Schillinger, followed by Irizar. Then in the third, well, it's Schillinger at the back, sorry. For the front is Nason, the Belgian rider, participating in his first Tour de France. And now just dropping onto the front is Markel Irizar, the rider from the Basque Country, riding for the Trek Segafredo squad. This is one of the far extremities of the lake we were talking about before. This is the small lake of Royeras. As I mentioned just a little earlier, there's a huge reservoir of water in this area in the Limousin, including that great lake, the Lac Limousin. But there was also a lot of resistance in this part of the war as well. In 1944, the soldiers of the SS rounded up around about 3,000 men in this area. And it really was the heart of the French resistance.
So they did this yesterday. They were the strong team. They didn't get it quite right at the finish. We'll see what happens this time. Little flick of the elbow. Time for Vermont to come through and take up the pacemaking. 18 seconds. Slipped away just a little bit here. There's Aston on the left. Movistar in the middle. Of course, they're the team of Quintana. But this sort of finish, somebody like Alejandro Valverde could deliver a sprint blow. Very strong on these types of finish up to the line. They hit the bottom of the climb about 500 meters out.
Yeah, but look over to the right-hand side, the red and white jerseys, Lotto Soudal, they've still got a full complement of their leader. And poor old Thomas Vogler, that's him bobbing about at the back there. Got the red number, 179, the most aggressive rider of yesterday. A little bit of discussion about that, but his job is done. He's just going to cruise in at the back end of the main field. In the white jersey, just hovering around in the middle of that fork at the front, is our man Andre Greipel.
So the team are now sorting out their sprinters. Katusha, it seems to me today, Katusha are going to give it another go for Alexander Kristoff. They feel as though he may have sorted out all of his problems, driven on. The trouble is, you're born in the month of July and you're a world-class cyclist. You never get to celebrate with your family and your children because you're usually on the Tour de France. It used to happen on an annual basis to Miguel Indurain, who won the Tour de France 5 times straight. Well, another town that loves the Tour, the Le Puy de somewhere. I missed it, actually.
La Puy-Neige. Well, it's certainly not snowing today. Thomas Vogler,
No
job done
today.
at the back of the group, but he has laid down the foundations for his team, Direct Energy, to come to the front later on. And I think what's important so far is, Phil, none of the teams that have got these lead-out trains have burned out their lead-out train. They're still pretty much in full complement, so as you get closer to the finish. And what's interesting about the fact that once we turned around to the right a little bit late, about 5 kilometers ago, we started to pick up mainly a tailwind, so it's going to be a very, very fast approach to the finish line here in Liège, in Limoges.
I hope we're not in Liège. That's a different country, never mind a different town, but even so, we're under 10 kilometers to go now. As the leader here is Irizar, just for the moment. All 3 still trying to help one another. The common enemy is about to pass under 10 kilometers to go as well. Just over 6 miles, remember. And it's Astana taking a real part in the finish today. Their man for the future, the long term, is Aru, but Vincenzo Nibali is here. Nibali, when he won the Tour a couple of years ago, got off to a great start on the second day when he won an uphill climb in the city of Sheffield in the UK. If he produces that form, then there'll be no sprinters with him.
Oh, now watch out. Dodgy little corner here as we start to get closer to the outskirts of Limoges. The breakaway group is around there nice and safely, but look at the smoothness that the main field are negotiating these corners now. These are the moments when you've got to stay at the front end of the peloton. If you dream about touching your brakes at a moment like this, you'll slip back 15, 20 places in the main field, and then you'll have to use a fair amount of energy to move back up towards the front end of the peloton, and it's those little bits of acceleration that deaden your sprint towards the end. Cavendish, he's hovering around there in the green jersey and never far away from him. he's so happy with direction data because he's got his lead-out train, his dream lead-out train back together. Bernie Eisel from Austria. He's got Mark Renshaw, and then, of course, himself. And over the years, Mark Renshaw, the Australian, has been so instrumental in all of these victories that Mark Cavendish has racked up.
Racing through the town here of Le Palais-sur-Vienne, as we're inside 10 kilometres now to the finishing line. Looks as the Lotto boys were looking around to make sure they hadn't got rid of their leader there, Andre Greipel, but he was tucked right in, and Cavendish paying a lot of attention, making space for himself now. These next few kilometres are the hazardous moments for the sprinters in the Tour de France.
They've got to be very careful now, Phil, as we start to look at that 10 kilometres to go banner, because inside of the last 10 kilometres, and it's one of those things when you look at the race route like this, there's a non-categorised little climb towards the finish. It only goes up 400 or 500 metres, but sometimes it can catch the sprinters unawares, and they know how important it is at this stage of the game now to hold their position in the line.
Well, they're racing about 3 miles an hour quicker, the peloton, so they should be shutting this down any minute now as we cross over the Vienne again here. The gap is down just 7 seconds. It's rather like counting for takeoff now as these boys close in. Katusha are willing to work. It means they've got faith in Christoph. It's goodbye now to Irizar's dropped off on the right. I think it was. No, it's not. It is Schillinger who's dropped off. This is Nason on the front, followed by Irizar.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that, Phil, but that really is prolonging the agony. This is the little incline I was telling you about, and as a sprinter, you've just got to hold on here, hold on to the position. You'll concentrate on the wheel of your lead-out man in front of you and hope that you go over the top of this climb without losing too many positions in the line. That is Irizar there in second position, all over his machine. If they look back now, they could probably see the breadth of the men in the main field, and now all of a sudden it's Lotto Soudal have said, okay, now's the time to take control, and you see this little incline, the damage it's doing at the back.
And it's Adam Hansen, the Queenslander. That's his job to start the ball rolling for the Lotto boys. There he is on the right of our picture, checking who's coming alongside him. And it looks to me as though Orica have got a keen interest here now for Michael Matthews as well. Not surprised by that. Contador is dancing over on the far left in that orange or yellowish jersey there. These are the two leaders. We're coming together, and we're coming together with about 7 kilometres to go.
Well, the overall contenders now are mixing it up with the sprinters. You've got the black and blue jerseys on the right-hand side. That's the riders of Team Sky looking after Froome. The AG2R rider in there, Romain Bardet, he's quite happy to be hovering around there. You know, Romain Bardet and Warren Barguil, the two young Frenchmen, they've been very attentive over these early stages. They've been finishing in the top 15. I think maybe a little bit of youthful enthusiasm, but still, they're paying attention and not losing any time.
Now, let's take a look at it. On the right is Team Sky. They're looking after Froome, trying to keep him safe. On the left of the picture, we've got Contador's team with the yellow jersey of Sagan right in our picture now in the centre. He wants to win while they're trying to keep Contador safe as well. The Movistar team, dead centre dark blue, are looking after Nairo Quintana, trying to keep him clean as well. As we've just slipped to the back, this is Irizar now, straight through and out.
Oh, talk about bad luck, Phil. They've been in the breakaway, and he's actually now got himself a flat tyre with 6 kilometres to go. That is unlucky.
It's very unlucky because he'll cost time, not that he's too worried about time. Limoges loves Le Tour. We know that. This is the 15th time we have been here. We've had the Grand Depart here on at least once occasion. There is the flat tyre. Another $120 down the pan. 6 kilometres to go. The teams are organised. There's a mixture once again of teams for the overall, wanting to stay out of trouble, teams of the sprinters wanting to get in there, mix it and win the day. Marcel Seberg trying to pull for Lotto Soudal as they race down before they kick up towards the finish. We're still 2 kilometres to go. Seberg playing his part now. Hansen's done his and dropped away as they try to relieve the last man standing in white, Andre Greipel.
This is Marcel Seberg now on the front. He knocks in at around about 6'6". He's a big, powerful man, looks over his shoulder. They really got it lined up. 4th position there in that line of riders is Andre Greipel. He's now up into 3rd position.
Seberg has now done his bit. He's gone off. Sagan is such a perfect rider when he comes to position. He's in the leader's yellow jersey. If he were to win, of course, he would get a time bonus and increase his overall lead going into tomorrow. That's not his main aim. His main aim is to win the stage today. They made that road look flat.
Well, they certainly did. Everybody else are coming in. They'll be given all of the same time. So the men trying to win this race overall, they will finish at the peloton. You've got a couple of riders. Let's have a look at this one more time. Brian Coquard, the slightly built Frenchman, putting his shoulder there up against the bigger man on the left-hand side. And it's that throw to the line. Well, from this angle, you cannot see a difference between the two of them. Let's have a look from the helicopter.
Well, I just don't know. It's shades of deja vu from yesterday. Coquard coming on the left here, and Kittel obviously fading a little bit. Sagan and Christophe out of it. Coquard, the little Frenchman, coming up close. Where is the line? Kittel's wishing it had come right now. A clash of shoulders. That's just effort. Oh dear, I still don't know.
No,
Let's try this one. You know. Well, it's the black line under the wheel that counts, and I still don't know.
Well, you know, the fact of the matter is Brian Coquard is a track sprinter.
They've given it to Kittel.
It's unofficial. It says provisoire, unofficially for Kittel at the moment, but we have to go. I think, Phil, we're going to have a very long look there at the photo finish.
I think we'll probably get 75 reruns here.
Yeah!
Well, he thinks he's won.
Yeah, he does. I'm not convinced.
Marcel Kittel, 8 times a stage winner. Is it 9? Have another go. See if we can work it out this time. Coquard was coming from a long way down. This hill suited him. Kept his effort right until the end. So difficult to see. It is where the black line goes under the wheel. And we can't see the wheel, never mind the black line. Well, it is desperate because it might be shaded by well, look at that. That is official. And there it is. It is as close as it was yesterday. The Frenchman was 3rd yesterday, and he's 2nd today.
Yeah! Yes! Congrats, man! Congrats! Yes, for you! Congrats!
Yeah. Marcel Kittel is back, suffering from depression. He's back on top, and he's now just won his 9th stage of a Tour de France.
What a battle, though, Phil, and it's that lunge for the line, and there is only centimetres, less than an inch, I would say, at the end of the day. Well, there you have it. There's confirmation of the result. It went to the photo. Marcel Kittel just getting ahead of the young Frenchman, Brian Coquard, and always present, getting himself another time bonus, by the way. Peter Sagan in 3rd place. Dylan Groenewegen, the Dutch national champion, in 4th. Alexander Christophe is getting up there. Hey, and look at that. In 7th place, Dan McClay is making his 3rd appearance in the top 10, and Cavendish are fading a little bit down towards the end in 8th place, but don't complain. He's already won 2 stages so far out of 4. Other riders tailed off on the right-hand side there. That is Thomas de Gent. Looks like Wout Poels in the middle for Team Sky. With these riders, not too concerned. It waited a while. He thought he got the, you know, as a sprinter, you've got that sense when you think you've got the win, but that was so close. He really did have to wait until the photo finish. But just watch from how far back the Frenchman goes in the black jersey there, and he disappears out of the shot. He's on the wheel there of Peter Sagan. Then all of a sudden he's biding in time, we're waiting, he's locked into the slipstream, now the acceleration, now the catapult on the left, and he's slowly making his way up towards what he hopes is going to be a victory. And on the line, the lunge, it's all down to that last moment there, and it was close, eh? And maybe it was the slightly longer arms that gave the victory to Marcel Kittel, because it was all about that throw to the line. That's Groenewegen on the right-hand side in the red, white and blue. And Cavendish over on the left-hand side. We get a chance here to have a quick look down there on the magnificent backdrop of the Cathedral of Saint-Etienne. Gothic architecture, construction beginning back in 1273.
Well, there we are, the confirmation of the points competition. Peter Sagan has now taken the lead back off Mark Cavendish in the points competition, and Cavendish drops to second place. Kittel is into third, and Greipel into fourth there. It was not a good finish for Andre up that climb, indeed. No change in the King of the Mountains, it really didn't make any difference. Jesper Seiven keeps his lead, but it's much more hilly tomorrow, that's the big thing. This has been some of the best sprinting I think we've seen in the Tour de France, and I couldn't stand to look at the screen in those last 2 kilometres. It looked so dangerous.
It was very dangerous, very fast, and at the end of the day, as we mentioned, Phil, it was a question of biding your time, waiting for the last moment. Great chance here to look, by the way. This is the Limoges Benedictine railway station, and that's one of the major historical monuments of this region back into 1975. It was damaged during the Second World War. It was bombed by Italian planes in 1940, but today, forget about all of that history. Think about that great win by Marcel Kittel. And of course, I've got to say, I'm waiting now to see Brian Coquard from France get a sprint victory, because that was very, very close.
After 4 stages for the sprinters, where avoiding crashes was the objective of the yellow jersey favourites, today the race meets its first serious climbs. Hello and welcome to stage 5 of the Tour de France. This is Matthew Keenan with you, and it's the city of Limoges, where Marcel Kittel won yesterday, that hosts the start of today's stage as we head down towards the Cantal. Another long stage as the race enters its first serious climbs. As they bid farewell to Limoges and make their way to La Lorraine, it's a 216-kilometre torture test, with the Category 4 climb early, and then it is littered with climbs towards the end, and the first of our Category 2 climbs. It's not a mountaintop finish, but it's not far off it. It was a day of celebration yesterday in Limoges for Marcel Kittel. This afternoon, as the race got underway, the peloton was celebrating the fact that the sun was out. These are the best weather conditions that we've had so far in this year's race. Forecast for the low 20s, around about 21, 22 degrees, the expected top. A flag dropping at kilometre 0, an attack early, and this time from the Fortunato Vital concept team, which are regulars to try and go on the move. But it was all brought back together by the first climb, and it was Jesper Stuyven out to try and defend his lead, who collected the 1 point on offer. The smallest climb of the day, a Category 1 climb. Break of 9 formed not too long after that, and the break of 9 have now split, 3 going clear with 6 chasers.